stand by.
Yes. That's why green. It's green. You can go back a little bit. Yeah, a little up too close to the camera. Right. Good. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, good. Excellent.
Uh-huh. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Red. This is where it's going to happen. This is where we talk all the talk and behave bad. Well, not bad, but you know what I mean? That Trinidad kind of language. You're not bad. You don't behave bad inside here. But you know, Trinidadians, we have a kind of slang for everything, you know. So, I have some interesting gentlemen here with me this evening. So, we're going to continue the lockdown but not locked up discussion, and today we're going to shift the slant a little bit. Last time we were specifically dealing with the idea of whether the government should be a little more relaxed with the stay-at-home procedures and why they should or should not continue. And shortly after that, we had the Prime Minister come out and give some statements as to how they're going to proceed forward on a phased basis and gradually release things, which I would want to agree with. But an interesting discussion came up with some friends and some colleagues and stuff, which is where I want to continue this evening. At the end of this whole period, whether they fully release, and I'm using the word release kind of tongue-in-cheek, you know, at the end of what period, the 15th of May or somewhere there, the end of April, end of June, end of December, whatever period, whatever time this lockdown thing comes to an end, what happens after that? So many people home, out of job, out of employment, have no job to go back to, have no form of income coming in. The government suddenly find where, I don't know how they do that magic. For years, you couldn't pay contract workers for work that is supplied to the government. But suddenly, in the middle of the crisis, one of the first things the Minister of Finance talk about is being able to pay out all them people who had backlog for how much years. So, where you suddenly find the money to pay them? More so, if you could have found that money during the crisis, then why you wasn't doing it all the time? And then after the crisis is abated, things go back, well, not go back to normal, but you know, life starts to progress again. Are we going to continue with this present motion where you could now pay people on time? Or are things going to go back to where men have to be waiting 4, 5, 6 years to get back paid? We ain't started to talk about private people yet, private enterprises. That is just government thing we talking about. So you can imagine the kind of melee. So that's a next level of crisis that's going to start when the lockdown finish. I hope people realizing that. So what we want to talk about this evening is some economics inside here, because there are some personal economics, if you want to use that term. You are handling your business, your home, you know, all that kind of stuff, and then we have economics on the larger scale, which is the country. And listen, I tell, at the end of the day, the people who calling the shots in government or whatever is people, just like you and me. So not because I don't have minister whatever next to my name means I'm a chupidi. Or same thing with some of the gentlemen who are here on this chat, because they have wealth and knowledge, they have insight, they are business people, they have been involved in the finance industry, they lecture, they teach, all that kind of stuff. So with all that long preamble, who say alright there? I hear somebody say alright.
Samuel.
Okay, Sam. Right. So with all that long preamble, quick introduction. We have Mr. Noel Emmanuel Jack, who is a herbologist, a master herbologist. He is into natural medicine and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, the man has a good reputation behind his back. We have Mr. Kester Beale, again, an expert in the finance industry, in business. He also lectures and teaches and that kind of stuff. We have Mr. Samuel George, Samji Enterprises, a businessman for years, specialist in the line of cement and construction and that kind of stuff. And then I have a good friend of mine, Mr. Stephen Ambrose. Ambrose, why you mute your mic? It's an open mic discussion. Keep your mic open. Right. Mr. Stephen Ambrose. Now, the last I knew about Stephen, I know he was doing some work at Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies.
Labor.
Right. Well, formerly called Cipriani Labor College. But again, we have some knowledgeable people inside there, and I just have a big mouth, but I could talk, right? So, but let's jump right into the discussion. And thanks for those of you who are locked on and viewing via the live stream. We want to get into the talk. So, economics. What could possibly happen to us after this lockdown? Who want to jump in? Anybody? What are some of the things we could look forward to?
All right, Eric.
Yes, sir.
I would like to come in very early because I have to do exercises.
Sure.
Let's look at it very seriously. What you did, you made an announcement of you're going to be paying out these monies.
Yes.
So businessmen have to stay quiet or they could be victimized.
Correct.
That is one. And the other one, I'll come back in a little bit later on. And
sure.
The other one, we hear about all this money in HSF fund. What are we talking about? TT dollars or US dollars?
Good question. Very good question.
I am very close to a lot of economists. They were even on TV this morning.
Yeah.
So I am in the room.
Yes.
Now you could not pay me my VAT for the past 4 years, and you're coming now to tell me you'll pay me my VAT next 5 years.
Yeah.
That is 9 years. So automatically, if I was going to buy a chair for $100 5 years ago, next 4 years, which is 9 years, the chair would no longer be $100. So the price will go up exponentially. Right now, we're going through a process. Do you know of anyone who has been paid anything from any part of that money yet?
I haven't heard anybody. I haven't heard anybody. Yes.
Eric, consider me to be a big fool. Let me remain there. Thanks for somebody. Let somebody else come back in.
All right. Good start. Who wants to jump in? Jump in, man. What going on? Seriously, what going on?
First, good day to all the hosts, follow panelists. Taken from what the gentleman, Mr. George, I believe his name is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Right. Would have discussed the time value of money, the question as it relates to if anyone is paid. I think those are key questions. But I think even in the discussion, we need to analyze this in its fullest. Now, we have what we call a pandemic, which we haven't seen since the 1980s, which went on to the 1920s, which would have been also between a war period. And we know after that, the Great Depression would have followed. Now, in examining what we are saying, I think I hear what you're saying, but I think we should narrow it down to what will directly impact us as a country. Because yes, we are part of the global industry, and yes, the questions that you ask is relevant. Now, based on the newspaper article today, the Minister of Finance, I think Guardian, I could always forward it to the group, would have spoken to by month end, these payments would be made. Now, if it will be paid is another question, but you remember, everything that is done, despite not speaking to it being political, we know it is. You know, as the question the host would have presented at the beginning, as it relates to the economy. Now, we have to look at this from both the macro and micro aspect. The micro being the household, and the macro being the economy as the whole, the country.
Yeah.
Right? And to a bigger extent, global. That is just for definition for those who may not be aware of the term.
Yep.
Now, my personal take on this whole situation, I don't believe we should rush something like this, because history have a way of telling us a story, but we need to pay attention. And for those who fail to learn, will just tend to repeat. Now, if we recall when we had that pandemic in the 1980s, that spanned the 1920s, we would have realized that because some believe that things could have been reopened sooner than it should have, we would have realized that it took longer and it cost us more in the long run. Yes. Now, we could speak to both the long run and the short run at this point in time. But for me, right now, I think if I'm to challenge anyone or to pinpoint a topic, I think we should look at diversification of the economy, because that is needed. I think the host would have alluded to that, and Mr. George, also as he spoke to business. No, it cannot be business as usual. I think from this pandemic, it would have shown us certain flaws in our system, both politically, both constitutionally, and within the labor framework. And the point is noted that before now, certain monies could not be paid, but now it's being paid. So we can't ignore that factor. But at this junction, I wouldn't want to take up all the time, and I'll leave someone to maybe share, and I could contribute later on.
Thank you very much. We have time, man. Don't worry about time. We have no limit. We won't go forever, but we have no limit. But very good observations. Kes, you want to come in?
Yeah.
I see you in Chile.
You know, I like the sayings of John Maynard Keynes.
Yeah.
Economists, we live in a Keynesian created global economy.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep shaking my head up. Anytime you do a work within a certain year, of course, we know inflation will be at a certain point. Additionally, so will taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are paid for, or as Mr. Samuel George said, 9 years later, literally, both your costs in terms of inflation and your taxes will have increased.
Mm-hmm.
So the value of the job would actually put you in the red. Instantly. Without a single thought.
Yeah.
So there's no way you could create a continuously sustainable business without non-governmental contracts. That is what that is saying. So the contracts where payment is much faster are the ones that keep you afloat during that period.
Mm-hmm.
Because waiting a decade on a payment for a job that was done a decade before, the entire landscape would have changed.
Yeah.
You have to pay your workers because you can't make them wait 10 years. You would have had to pay your workers out of pocket, being out of other jobs. So you would have to create jobs, pay them for those jobs, and pay them for the governmental job as well out of that same budget. Waiting your income. And in this present scenario with interest rates falling to sub-zero, the benefit of your income is in retrograde. You are going more backwards than forward.
Yeah.
And I might want to pause at this point by just quoting John Maynard Keynes. By a process of inflation, a government can secretly and unobserved steal an important part of the value of their citizenry. Theft is so subtle that not one man in a million would be able to detect.
Noel Emmanuel Jack, I will take your opening. Sammy, just before you go.
I just want to add to Kes.
Okay.
Kes, one piece of information, Kes. If you do a job like in Petrotrin this month, whatever is the cost of the job, whatever is the cost of the VAT, you have to pay the VAT now. And you get your money 2 years down the road. That's all. That's information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Noel Emmanuel Jack, let me get your opening comments, sir. What do you think?
Okay, so good evening again, everyone.
Evening, man. Yes, sir.
On this show, again, congratulations for this wonderful show, bringing information in a real sense to the masses, right? Now, when we study economics to me is a science that involves management of human resources, right? You're looking at commodities, asset classes, the distribution of wealth, okay? And everyone in the society has a God-given, they are endowed with certain inalienable rights. And one of those rights is to exist. One of those rights is to pursue your own happiness, to pursue commerce, industry, your rights to private property. If you cannot have the resources, the means to sustain yourself and to, exchange goods and services, to create a legacy, to empower yourself, to empower your family, you are in dire straits. And when we analyze what is happening all across the world, as far as mass unemployment, we see what happened in the United States, over 6 million in about a week or so. They said up to 10 million persons lost a job. And it is not a scenario that is now happening. This has been going on for years. The COVID-19 virus just precipitated a further development, a further growth of mass unemployment. We also have contract labor, underemployment, temporary labor. I mean, people are suffering all over the world. Our last show we talked about the Games of Thrones and the King of the North and the King of the South and so on, as was portrayed in that movie. But in reality, you're dealing with the forces of atheism, socialism, globalization, interdependence, literally eating away the sovereignty of your country, the independence of your country. So when you are a subsidiary to the World Health Organization, which is connected to the United Nations after the Second World War, and you have to deal with institutions like the IMF. And Kes and the other brother made mention of John Maynard Keynes and Keynesian economics. And as we all know, John Maynard Keynes, together with Harry Dexter White, they founded the IMF. So here, many nations now have to turn to the IMF. They have to turn to the World Bank and other international monetary lending agencies. Is that in our best interest? No, not at all. Because when you look at the conditionalities that are meted out to us, again, the purchasing power of our dollar is constantly being eroded. We are talking about more suffering come to the people. So to me, if we're talking about after lockdown and how the government and how we as a country, how we'll be moving forward, we have to take several things into consideration. Number one, we shouldn't be right now thinking about what is going to happen after COVID. we should have been planning long before, because the dependence on the energy sector, oil and gas, I mean, we all knew that they were supposed to be putting in place policies to diversify the economy. We should not have to be dependent so much on outside to get food. So what should have been happening is that we should have been planting more food, becoming less dependent on foreign exchange to purchase more food. What we should have been doing also was developing the manufacturing sector, so we create more jobs in Trinidad right here. Into so many different industries we have here, crafts and artisans and so on, that can do so much in regards to manufacturing, to create jobs and to export in the Caribbean and the wider world, than be using our foreign reserve to bring in more money or to bring in goods and services. So I'm saying the government, I don't know if the committee that they appoint to monitor and suggest how we're going forward after COVID, if they are truly qualified, if they were not planning before, right? So we really have to consider how we are moving forward. The government have to consider what they're doing in regards to easing the lockdown, to stimulate economic activity again. And they have to also look at the socio-economic sector, because a lot of people are suffering. And all the various grants and rent grant and food cards and so on, they have to actually roll that out, else you're going to have massive upheavals, social unrest, and trouble coming to our country. So I hope and pray, Eric, and those of you who are listening, that the government really take these matters into consideration as you move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for it. Go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead.
To Emmanuel, Mr. Emmanuel, just for the clarification of myself, the other panelists, and the viewers, when you speak to manufacturing to be improved, is it that you're speaking to manufacturing as the supply chain from the agri to, or is it that you're just speaking about manufacturing as it relates to the process of creating food?
No, I mean, okay, we have a lot of lands in Trinidad, right? Some of them abandoned. People vandalize and they do what they want. They squat, they do all kinds of stuff. Yes, now I'm saying that we could have been manufacturing or planting certain type of foods. We have coconut, we have yams, we have all types of ground provision, like what goes on in St. Vincent, Grenada, another part of the Caribbean, where we could be literally producing food. Food could be cheaper here in Trinidad. When you have to take your US dollars to go and import billions of dollars worth of food, you're dwindling your coffers, right? We have to dip into the Heritage and Stabilizing Fund, and we place ourselves in a precarious situation. There are other industries, as far as manufacturing is concerned, that private sector partnering with government can initiate to create jobs and less demand upon importation from abroad, right? We could provide temporary and we could provide sustainable employment for the youths and for the citizens of our country. we can do much better.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting thing. I had a wake-up call some years ago, and I want to get into something because Mr. Ambrose Stephen used that term in his discourse that I want to kind of flex on diversification. And before I go further, let me welcome to the panel. I was waiting because I mean these two people that come, them make up the thing. You know what I'm saying? So let me welcome Cliff and Donna. See, they still try to get their audio sorted out. So Cliff and Donna Samlal Singh. One is a teacher. And one comes from the financial industry in banking and credit unions and stuff. And then we have Mr. Cordell King James, who at this present time is the head of an international organization that is spearheading some major things that is changing the world of finance globally, finance and e-commerce. That is the One Life organization, and we want to welcome Mr. Cordell King James, and I know he has a lot to say when it comes to the idea of diversification. So I'm looking forward to hear his input later on. But a point I wanted to make just now, I had a little wake-up call some years ago, I just made one last minute addition, Mr. Rolf Doyle. And Rolf is the I can't remember what is Rolf's position. Rolf, what is your position in production one? But we'll talk about that. But Rolf is part of an organization that spearheads some major events in the entertainment arena. So of course they're dealing heavily with finances and that kind of stuff. But let me make this point. The wake up call I had some years ago. I went to a small expo. Somebody's dog barking there. Who's that? I went to a small expo in cruise ship complex. And I saw these coffees. First time I see, well, I'm not a coffee man. When I saw the packaging partners, I was blown away. I said, wow. I said, so all them nice fancy coffee, all important to sell. But she said, no, that is not important, that is our coffee. So what? She said, yeah. What we does use locally is the C grade. She said, we does export the A grade and B grade coffee. So we exporting the raw coffee and then buying it back as a product to resell it. I said, nah, boy. And then I found out that it's the same thing that happens with the citrus industry and other industries. So locally, our people using the third and fourth class grades of whatever we produce, and we sell the rest away because it's more important to have the money than to have. You understand what I'm saying? That's our next story by itself. When I did my first tour in the Pitch Lake, same story. And the girl showed us places around the world that is using our pitch. And the kind of roads they have compared to what we have. You wonder if we're using pitch at all. Is our picture? So we sell we heritage for $1. And then I don't go back to the same. You understand the kind of mad scene? Now, I am not an economist. So somehow to me that makes no sense. And I dare any economist to explain that to me in a logical way. How and why that kind of thing makes sense. So I said that is to bring back the thing. Because Mr. Ambrose talked about the government needs to look seriously at diversification. And that is something we could look at on two levels. Again, the micro, meaning you personal, your home, whatever. Diversifying your financial portfolios and that kind of stuff. And then on the macro scale, from a government, what can the government do in terms of diversification? So at this point, let me give Mr. King James and Cliff and Donna I say, you could keep your mic open, guys, unless you have some real background noise. It's an open mic discussion. So who wants to jump in there? King, I see like you're ready. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Get the honeymoon couple a chance to get their mic together. Pleasant good day. First and foremost, I'm humbled to be on this platform with such esteemed gentlemen. Eric, Mr. Red, you're doing quite an amazing job. Sorry I took so long to be here, but I needed to be here nevertheless. Thank goodness for a good wife. She just reminded me to jump on the platform. So I said, of course, let me do the right thing as I had the window open. So there's a lot to be said. There's a lot being said, and I don't want to say too much. I just want to point out some points. Most people talk, but they don't talk solution. And I always hear people talk problem, this problem, that problem. And a lot of people like to say the government my foot. Stop with the government talk. This is a year that's supposed to be an election year. What government going to do anything right now that you can say they'll be there to do it? None. So who are you going to put in power is the question. But that may be another topic. But let's talk about you, the individual. What you, the individual, going to do to align yourself strategically with an organization that's making steps forward. So we can have diversification. But do we understand that there's powers in numbers and there's powers in thinking along the same lines? What do I mean? We could find a common cause like we have found with the company that I represent, where it's about money diversification. But it starts there, it don't end there. Now if we pull together enough numbers of individuals, we can now decide as a group, listen, that was not making sense all along regarding fruits, regarding vegetables, regarding whatever it may be. We come together, we put together a plan, decide who land we're going to acquire, because there's land even selling within the organization. And we can put down not just crops, we can even put down workers, because there's willing hands right now from the Venezuelan market. So the same idea I want to give to the government, it's time we take these ideas and implement them and stop giving them away. But it's for us to just have one voice that talks together with the group, that the group is willing to listen to one voice, but they're willing to listen to that one voice, but that one voice is pointing them in the right direction. You guys follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that, I believe, is what we are striving on and gearing up towards. I believe we have the number one uniting force, if you want to say it that way, that no matter who you are, no matter your race, no matter your religion, no matter your creed, no matter nothing, you have to interact with money. And the fact that we have the second economy and we have what people supposed to be interested in, especially coming out of this COVID-19 situation, and I pray we come out of it soon, we have a voice that needs to be heard, that can help, and that can elevate. Because I am telling you, after tackling food, like Brother Noel is suggesting, which is one of the key things we need to tackle, we need to tackle now what? All this sun energy. I am tired going to countries. I always take a little clip of cold weather countries that I'm going to, that I see wind turbines, I see solar panels, and all these people begging for solar energy. And we have it here wasting. That's another target that, you know what we can do now? When we form groups that are working together and force the government to come see us, whichever one is in power at that particular time. So that's my thoughts on some of the diversification, besides just finance. I could talk a lot about that. I just don't want to touch that area as yet. But overall, it is important to understand that people has the power, and stop giving away the power. Stop putting it on somebody else. We quick to pass the buck. Nobody talks solution. We all know the problems, you know. What is the solution? What are you joining? What are you going to get up and do and stop talking by the water cooler, talking by the gate, talking by the food store, talking with a friend? Anyway, people just meet. The Trinidadians like to meet and talk, you know. I done with the old talk, man. Time for action. And if you're not about action, please stay out of the way of people who are doing the right things.
Thank you very much, Mr. King James. Solid words. Listen, I have a particular chat group that I'm involved in. I wouldn't call it. I'm in several, you know, and some real knowledgeable guys. I mean, a wealth of knowledge. And often a lot of conversations will come up on what one government do and the present government and past government and this politician and that person and that one and this one. All kinds of crazy stuff. And I mean, men have history that they could pull. Book, chapter, verse, the works, they have it. And I would usually pop up after a while with one question. Now that you are aware of all of this information, what are you prepared to do to create change? And the conversations usually come to an end. Because talk amongst ourselves. But we can't do anything here. All this stuff, if it's not going either to the relevant authorities or we taking a stand to do something. One of my guys, and another one in my chat, one of my guys just posted a few minutes before we started here. He said, listen, with all of this that was happening, could we come together, raise some money, and probably organize a laptop or two or some hamper or something and give away to some child? I said, good, I support you. Start it and run. Start it. But that's the thing. A lot of people talk. They have all the ideas what's supposed to happen. Well, you started now. No, they're waiting for the government to start something. Or somebody else. You started. As he hit the ball rolling, man started jumping. Right. I pledge 200. I pledge this. I pledge that. I said nice. And we get going. But too much people just talking. If we can't just talk diversification, we have to get action. But I like that suggestion about the land thing. I have a piece of land right in the back by me, you know. I planning all kind of what I'm going to do with that land. But first thing I need to make sure I secure it. So that when we start doing things, nobody is... You understand? But...
Understand.
Yeah, but that's the idea. We had to start thinking that way. And we have to start...
But just that, Eric.
Yeah.
With your land and what you're talking about, and some of these planting, like Brother Noel talking planting, there's so much new agriculture techniques.
Correct.
Can be utilized.
Hydroponics and all kind of things. Yeah.
I see some of these things. We could do it.
And this time that we in... Well, let me put it this way. This is a perfect scenario to bring back some concept that we've always been talking about. How it used to be. You know, we literally have to band together and trust each other and work together cohesively. It can't be no one-man show thing. That we ain't gonna reach far with that. But let me bring in Cliff and Donna Samuel Singh and Mr. Rolf Doyle. Rolf and Cliff, you guys can leave your mics open. It's an open mic discussion. So anybody want to jump in and add some value? I see in Cliff.
I'd like to jump in, but after the rest of the introduction.
All right, I see in Cliff and you have on a jersey this time, thank God. Go ahead, Cliff.
Oh God, like a disappointed boy.
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not so sure that I would add so much value, because I'll tell you why. We seem to have a serious problem in my country. I don't feel we patriotic enough.
You just add value there, Cliff. You just added a lot of value right there, but go ahead.
Alright, I'll go tell you why.
Yeah.
I have a first cousin who lives in Barbados. I was there some 15 years ago, staying home by him and thing, and he tell me, he said, "Cause, let me tell you something. Because all you have oil, that's the only reason all you pose any kind of value in the Caribbean. You take away that oil, Trinidad have nothing to show for it." And I get real vexed with him. But you know, the man right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. We have an industry called a horse racing industry here. Same like Barbados, run by businessmen that it floundering. It can't make a note. They have a car racing industry, little Barbados, which is just a little bigger than Tobago. They have their own car racing industry that flourishing. Ours nowhere to go. We have, you just mentioned Lake Asphalt. Imagine one other market in the whole world that offers the same grade of asphalt like we do, right? And we can make a profit from that. If you look at the share price of Lake Asphalt on our stock exchange, no competition in the country. Imagine that, no competition in the country. One other quality similar to it in the entire world, and you can't make a profit from that. I could go on and on. All right, and I believe that same thing what Cordell raised here, and I spoke about that already. All right, I just posted, I don't know if you look in your box there, where I posted where a fella by the name of Surendra Arjun, he is a member of a group I in, where he had posted a 19-page document which Trinidad and Tobago supposed to implement for ways to revamp the economy after this coronavirus. The last 2 pages in that 19-page document have anything to do with digitizing the economy. The other 16 pages going into 17 is all about the normal way of life. So as far as they're concerned, business as usual. If you really, as far as I'm concerned, if you really wanted to say, listen, this is a reset button, then digitizing before finding a way to maximize the productivity, digitizing would reduce the amount of leakage you have as far as taxation is concerned, and as far as avoidance of taxation. No, taxation must be fair to the citizens. Once they see it as fair and they see it leading to productivity, citizens would more want to lean towards it. You want to know who feel proud of the country? Look at what Barbados posted today about Stuart Young's comments about them. They take high offense. All of them rally. I believe Trinidad and Tobago supposed to find a way, if they really want to come out of this, don't look at Trinidad and Tobago. Come together with the rest of CARICOM and show, I know Myanmar is the person who's in charge of CARICOM right now, but you have the leading economy in the Caribbean. Trinidad and Tobago, you're supposed to show CARICOM, here what's going on, guys. We have the leading economy, and this is what we propose for the region. Not 1.5 million, but rather, if it's 6 million person, I don't know what is the population that makes up CARICOM. All right, but come together under the CARICOM banner and let's show the rest of the globe, because at the end of the day, it can't be Trinidad versus the world. It had to be CARICOM, and let's show as a unifying force. So we could say things right here, you know. I ain't saying nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, I'm sorry to say, it could be just rum shop talk, because the people, the powers that be, ain't want to listen. If you tell them, let we put aside all how they feel about us, and let we come together and say what we want to move together with as a force. That is a different thing. But telling you off the bat, being ready, being serious. That is how I see it right now. I already told people over and over, you see, in our next generation from now, we better be careful. We could be like how Guyana was of old, right? Because
not if I live in here. Not if you live in here. Not if I live in here. Not if you live in here. I'm not going through that. I'm not going through that. So when me and you spoke, Cliff, and we spoke about that, I spoke about it for the government. I have now elevated from there, and I realized I will implement such. And not wait for them, because I wanted them to implement it on a large scale. But we can implement it on a small scale and develop it throughout, bit by bit, as people see it work. So I am with you to make this thing happen, not all talk. But what we have to do prior to making it happen, build people, generate income, show them what we already have is working, and as we work with them and we grow in that direction, it's easy now to have everybody going in the same direction.
What I have learned is that politicians respect numbers.
I agree.
Right. So once you have numbers behind a certain plan, then you could make noise about it. If you have 100 persons who say, yeah, this thing sound good, that ain't mean nothing to politicians, brother. They will stamp down that and tell you, find a nice way to make you to let you believe that your idea sound good, but put you aside. I familiar with that. I tell you, I've been to Chamber of Commerce meetings, and I hear where they let you down very nicely, very politely to tell you, hey, excellent idea. We will, and here the next line. We will make a very serious note about that. That's what they do. They make a very serious note of it, and nothing goes further. If it is, we're talking here today, Eric, and the rest of the people here, about what are we going to do and move forward with it as a group, I'm willing for that. If we just hear rum shop talk, let me take a drink first before I further talk, because that's all it is. I tell you, accustomed to that, I was in the bar, I know what bar talk. Yeah. Right? The people and them, no, right? Are people, Trinidadians and them, not patriotic. Right? They love old talk. Right? And I love Cordell's passion, but passion alone, individually or just a couple other persons, it don't get you very far.
Unless you're Nelson Mandela, you're Malcolm X, you're Marcus Garvey. So I don't understand you with what you're saying at all. Passion,
what
you don't understand? Determination, we will get it done together. I'm saying that one person makes a difference. I'm saying one person can push it and pull it through. One person have created many powers to get it done.
It starts with one.
With that part there, I'm saying we could realign that part there. One person can make a difference. So it's not just about me, but I believe I could definitely help the cause.
I just want to interject. First, need to say welcome to Mr. King and Cliff and Donna and all the other panelists. Now, just to touch on some things that we would have discussed before, and I heard what Cliff is sharing, and it makes sense, and I also hear what King is sharing. But I think what both parties is alluding to is having something strategically done. Because without a strategy, whether it would be Malcolm X, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, there was some form of strategy. So because you can't, and I'm using this word purposefully, you cannot educate people if they are not willing to be educated. Sometimes we miss that factor. Now, earlier Emmanuel would have shared something, and I want to go back to it. When he spoke about the eco-social, but I want to even go to the demographics and also look at what he was sharing as it relates to, because I spoke to diversification, and he would have spoken to also the reduction of food, which I think Mr. King is alluding to. So I think we are on the right road, but I think we need to now decide our journey, because I'm hearing what Mr. King is saying, I'm hearing what Colin is saying, and I heard what the other panelists would have shared. Now, Emmanuel would have spoken, and I made sure to get clarification on it, because he said we need to improve the manufacturing. So my question, just for those who wasn't here, would have been, to what extent you speak to manufacturing? Is it only investment into the process, or is it that we are speaking now to the value chain? And he cleared it up. He said, no, it's relating to the value chain or supply chain as it relates from the small man, the agriculture, dealing with the agriculture, to the manufacturing, which is, I think, is sensible. Now, one of the things I would have recognized and pointed out to a good few friends of mine is that even when the PM would have made the representation, the calls of the people to represent, he spoke to manufacturing. Now, if we are speaking to manufacturing and directing this discussion, we will need now to take into consideration something he may not have taken into consideration, which is manufacturing. Manufacturing is not agriculture. And as we have seen, there is no one who represents agriculture. Now, they would have placed two persons on that panel that represent labor, which we should also discuss, because I think labor dictates a lot. Earlier, Emmanuel would have quoted from, if it's not Carl, it would have been Karl Marx. Correct me if I'm wrong, Emmanuel, as it relates to the pursuit of happiness. Now, if we're taking everything in a nutshell, what everyone would have shared, we need to look at how we progress. Now, I'm hearing King with the organization, we speak in collectivism, I'm agreeing with that. But how do we get people there without first educating? That's a question to you, because it's easy to say we can now collaborate and we could do this and we could do that, but how can we now get that collectivist behavior without now educating? And if you are saying you are, if to share not just with the panel but with the viewers, what method would you employ to do that? That's the question to you. You spoke to also the political system and being that influence. Now I hear you, and I heard what Colin shared as it relates to oil reduction, because at present we are facing that present situation where the oil price is less than $1. And for those who is not sure why this price war is happening, it's happening because they want to get rid of something that is on the market that is harmful, not just to the people around it, but to the environment, which is some say pronounce it as shell, some pronounce it as shale oil. But it's not good for the environment. So that is where, beside other political reasons, that is part of the reason why right now oil is less than $1. So we are facing that reality. Now, Emmanuel and King would have brought a point that we should look at. And for those who would have lived in the 80s would know this name, Morris Bishop, which was actually a revolutionary leader next door, which was in Grenada. Yes. And I was sharing this recently with a group. Now, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes we just need to investigate what was already there. Now, if back in the 80s, before what would have occurred during that period, if that country succeeded, the Caribbean today would have been a different Caribbean. So I'm hearing King as it relates to planting, and now I heard Emmanuel as he spoke to manufacturing, because I think we need to tie the two. Because for some reason, we take what we have for granted, or we always see it as not being good enough. And I think now, taken away from King, yes, we need to create these virtual societies. And Mr. Cullen, as he relates to now things being removed, and it's not in hindsight, it is present. So I'm thinking we maybe should taking what Mr. King said, take some of these ideas, refine it to present day, and see how because there's a lot of things America and the European countries we can export. We have cassava that is easily grown in Trinidad. We have the cassava leaf. I didn't even realize that there's a lot of countries that actually use the cassava leaf to cook. So we have all these things, but again, we can't just say we having these ideas without putting a strategic plan in place. So I'm thinking, yes, we need to export, but we need to also have a plan, because Martin Luther, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, everyone had some strategy and a way. So I'll just leave room for the other panelists. And Mr. King, don't forget my question.
May I say something?
Yes, Cliff. Yes, Cliff, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. I disagree with Cordell's view on planting. Where is your labor coming from? Who? The Venezuelans who in the country? Why I say so? The Indian community, which made up most of the farmers, I had been into planting some years ago. The Indian community who made up that labor force don't want to be in farming. In fact, if you remember, bamboo was set up as an agricultural community to be able to do tilapia. So they had tilapia ponds there. The people on them went there and buy up the land cheap. So they use the land as agricultural land, and they did it under the guise of agriculture. From the time the children started to get older, what did they do? Did they get their children to continue the process of agriculture? No. They got them to go to university and study other fields, because agriculture is not a respected field in Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago was the food basket at one time years ago in the Caribbean. The biggest thing that Tobago exports right now is empty carry bottles. There's the party capital of this side of the Caribbean. All right, I'm sorry to say the young people have nothing to do with agriculture in Tobago. So much so that 60% of the labor force in Tobago is they work for THA, because when work finishes come midday, most of them could go on lime after that. Whether you like how it sounds or not, I don't matter. I telling you how it is. All right. So who you're going to get to go and do agriculture? Only the Venezuelans, because the black persons who in this, they remember from slavery days what the connotations of belonging to the land and doing agriculture. So it have a historical side effect. So they also don't want to be part of that, unless the government, and even if you get the persons to do that, who you going and supply? Like you talk about cassava, who you going and supply? Who the major market is Namdevco. When Namdevco telling you, listen, they're going to pay you $2 a pound for your cassava, when it costs almost that to bring it to the market, and you have to rely on whatever Namdevco provide for you. That don't make sense. In other countries in North America, right, when they provide, when they tell you you could do a crop, it does not matter whether you have a gluttony market or not. You are guaranteed your price. Not in Trinidad and Tobago agriculture. So people in agriculture don't see it as a sustainable long-term venture. No, it doesn't mean like people in Paramin and them who do seasoning and so on, where it's a family-based business, right? They do that and they continue on because it's a family-based thing. But it's not where outsiders come in and have a big employment thing. No, unless the government can show where you can mechanize operations, right? So for instance, if you have like pumpkin and so on, where pumpkin is grown on predominantly flat land, where you could take tractors and so on and do that there, right? That is mechanized. But when I get the pumpkin, where's the market for it? I still had to now go and fight up with the glut of other pumpkin and hope that I could get a nice price. Look right now, the price of melon is $125 a pound wholesale. $125 a pound. And people who buying that and selling it in the market, selling it between $150 and $75. So it means that your spread is only 25 to 50 cents. That is a perishable item. But the people in them need to live.
I want to
No
interject a little because I didn't want to stop you in mid-flight, but I don't want to lose my chain of thought. I know some of the questions would have been directed to James, but you would have touched on some areas I would have spoken to. Now, that's why I spoke to strategically done. And I also spoke to the fact that there was a model back in 80s, and I spoke to the person's name. So I'm not just speaking because we are on the panel. I think in anything that we do, we should also speak to educate. Now you spoke about the suggestion by Mr. King as it relates to the foreign labor to do certain things. You spoke to the fact that agriculture is not attractive to the younger population, which is true. Because what attracts people, and I think Mr. King and the rest of the panel will hear me out, is the power is backed by finances. Cassava, how much we can. That is what I was sharing. The structure, if you know what would have occurred in the 80s, and I also want to address something with the Spanish people before I end that aspect of it. With Morris Bishop, his model was strongly based on agriculture and export to bring in foreign exchange, and that is what made at that point in time the country so dangerous to the US and the wider world.
Thank you,
because
Steve.
here he was thinking, hey, if we mass produce, as you said, mass production, we can now put a system in place, because it was a system, but it was done collectively. That when it is you harvest, everybody harvests, we export, and everyone gets a fair distribution of that wealth. Now, mind me with certain economic terms, whatever is not clear, feel free to ask me to explain. So it's along that line we are speaking to, and that's why I used specifically in my discussion the word strategic. Now, something you would have shared as it relates to agriculture. Now, because of my heritage, I can safely tell you this. The cocoa pile, if you're aware of that, which would have been introduced in the 18th, these were also Spanish immigrants. My family is part of it, who came to deal with coffee and cocoa at that point in time. So what we are doing, or what is being suggested, is nothing new. What we are saying, because at this present stage, it is not attractive to a lot, we now need to create better strategies, maybe review or revisit some strategies from the past, modify it, and now utilize it to better. Because you see, I hear you where you're saying it's not attractive, and we understand that. But we have to also tap into the pool of knowledge that we have, whether it be via history or whether it be via academics.
So let me jump in, Stephen. Let me clarify some things. But of course, I'm not going to just read and spell everything all at once. But I'll get into a little bit more so Cliff could see exactly what it is I'm discussing regarding the outsourcing of work. First and foremost, I have been on a mission before when I went to Chad. And the people who took me to Chad was some people from Bangladesh. What they went to Chad for was to tell them, listen, we would bring the technology, we would bring the seeds, and we would bring the trainers. We would train your people, we would plant on your ground, and we're not asking you to sell or even sell anything locally. We would buy all of the crop that we planted, and all we need you is for your labor and your land. That is what the Bangladeshi people brought to Chad, because Bangladesh is a self-feeding nation that throws away so much potato at the end of the year that you wouldn't believe. And if you see how small their country is, they don't have land to plant, so they have to be looking to neighboring countries. Now, hear what I'm saying. With the technology that we are involved in this day and age, with big data and UBDI and all these other systems that I could start speaking about, with artificial intelligence and with bots, with the blockchain and smart contracts, it's the agriculture process that I'm going to easier, first and foremost. And the reason why it's going to be easy to be implemented is because we already have the workforce. I hear what people are saying. You cannot tell me when you give somebody housing that don't have housing. You cannot tell me when you make any refugees put them in a situation where you bringing them to work and carrying them home from work, running a 24-hour process to develop the land and plant and harvest. You cannot tell me this type of system where they're living technically for free because they pay next to nothing to live, housing them, that this system would not be attractive for people to come and work. You cannot tell me that. Not when they're facing what they're facing. But this is not a forever plan. But it could be a strategic plan and becomes more lucrative as time passes. Because right now they're in dire constraints. I've seen them flee Venezuela, all in Suriname, all in Guyana, all in Colombia. Because that's around them. I've seen these things with my own eyes. I've witnessed these people when I have met them in other places. So I know for sure that is like a refuge and could be a help. But here's the exciting part. Hard with the computers and the systems that I'm speaking about to say, okay, Barbados, St. Vincent, and whatever country that's nearby us, what they're importing, we can plant and export to them. What they're paying in shipping to bring from wherever they're bringing, we're not closer than wherever they're shipping to. So it's not a hard. I'm not saying to not have a strategy. Because Mr. Ambrose, you're absolutely correct. We must have a strategic strategy and plan. That's planting. But let me get back to the original question that you have. Ask people. And you said education have to be the basis. But you also say it's hard not to educate somebody that don't want it. I kind of disagree. And here why I would say such a statement. I remember some people like to say that you could bring a horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink. That's also I disagree with. You see, you have to remind the horse that is starving and is hungry. And if you have the tools to remind the horse that is starving and is hungry, the thirst builds up and what the horse is going to do? Not drink? Yes, you can even splash it in his face, the water must drip in. But you must remind the horse that it is thirsty. And what I'm saying is, with people, education, we have to show them that they don't have any when it comes to finance. This is why we're in the financial problems we're in today. And we have to show them it's not their fault, it was by design. So when I start to educate them with finance and I say to you, here what, I have an option for you. I can introduce you to cryptocurrency, which you're scared of. The only reason why you're scared of is because you lack understanding. But here I could bring you the understanding, I could bring you the theory, but not just bring you the theory, I could also introduce you to the practical. There's no human being that's going to tell me all they're interested in is keeping one form of currency, which is fiat, meaning paper currency, that's continued to depreciate. Every single year is losing value, only going like this. And I'm telling you, I want to introduce you to the first of its kind, a currency that could go down, could remain the same, or could go up. And you tell me you're not interested. So I believe that I, along with some of the team members that's a part of this whole One Life organization, cryptocurrency movement, we could bring people along by showing them this second economy that cannot be stopped, that's being talked about everywhere. It's 12 years in existence, this second economy. So it's not disappearing. I can ask you if your child at 10 years old is going to be banking in the way you banked 10 years ago. Not possible.
The phone going off.
So when I and others begin to educate you, you're not going to build trust with me? Because here it is, I'm showing you something that the government and no one else is really showing you. So when I show you this type of information and I build trust with you, it's not now that you'll trust me with even more. And here it is now, I could introduce other things to you. So that is the form of which we're going to use to unite people, Mr. Ambrose, is to show people what has been happening, what is right in front of them, to show them what is the ill effects of the central banks of the world and what the world is facing globally with the fiat paper currency system. That is what we're going to do, sir.
All right, before hold on, Ambrose. Before we go further, I just wanted to introduce one new person that was added to the panel. I don't know how long he was in the waiting room, but a former colleague of mine who I know has some good value to add. And there's a reason why I'm using the term adding value. Cliff, where Cliff? Cliff just fall off the grid. What's up? But there's a reason why I'm using the term adding values. I want to introduce quickly Mr. Agbe Somorin, and I'll ask him to contribute in a while. So he's on. I see he's been listening. I'll ask him to contribute in a while. I muted his mic a little bit because I know he was driving and the breeze was blowing in the mic. But I see he's listening and he's taking notes. So go ahead, Ambrose, and right after you, I'll allow Mr. Agbe to come in with some comments. Go ahead, Ambrose.
Thank you and welcome, Mr. Agbe. Mr. King, based on what you share, I heard you. But I don't think you would have addressed the question I would have asked. Now, I'm hearing you with the cryptocurrency and the various methodology. But what I'm saying at the end of the day, because you spoke about trust. Now, yes, a decade from now, we will be using a different method of trading. And I use the word trading purposefully. Or bartering for those who would prefer that. And yes, what you are sharing has its place. But I mean, if we're speaking on, or we return to the discussion that we are having now, based on what you would have shared earlier, it would not speak to a higher level of collectivism as the Martin Luther and the Gandhi and all these people would have we would have addressed or made mention to earlier. Now I'm hearing you because that is one form of educating. But the truth of the matter, not everyone will be willing to participate. Because just like when the postal service was introduced to email, they said it would not have gone anywhere. Just as when IBM took the idea from the two technical giants we know today, which is Gates and Steve Jobs. Someone would have said it's not feasible or not possible. But we see that over the years, once you can dream, it's a possibility. But still, even in that, for us to be able to use the modern computer, because we are using it at present, for us to change our culture, which Mr. Emmanuel would have spoken to the socio and the economical aspect, there need to be more than just talk or illustration. And I heard you spoke about strategy. But if I'm to be fair to the panelists and the viewers, I don't think your strategy, one, is as holistic as maybe you like to explain it. And two, how does it benefit the macro economy? Because I'm hearing you from an individualist position with a few who might buy into that type of process. But when we speak about diversification at this present panel discussion, we are speaking from both the micro and the macro, and how now the diversification or the suggestion of diversification will now impact everyone from the macro level. Because we cannot just look at the smaller part, the trading aspect, because without any commodity, we can't trade. So even if we be taking
this is the point that you're making, that I'm making. So you see what happened is I'm not in a platform where I could present to you. I'm just speaking generally, broad, so maybe some people pick up, maybe they don't. But when you speak about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Gandhi and people of this nature, what were they fighting for and were able to unite people around? Not freedom. It was reunited people around freedom, correct?
Actually, it wasn't freedom, it was self-awareness.
Self-awareness that led to what?
Well, you asked me what they was speaking to.
Yes, but it's important that we could agree that it's self-awareness that led to what?
No, that's a different question you're asking. It would have led to us making movements towards getting our freedom.
Excellent. So let's talk about the two. Because when you spoke about education, there's no one that's doing what? Making self-awareness. Right now, you may not know, or you may know, I don't know how much knowledge you have on the fiat system or the banking system, but right now something is terribly wrong. And you may not know. So people are not self-aware of that. And the reason why they're not self-aware is because they're not taught. So if I can make you self-aware that something is wrong with the system, it's going to lead to what? freedom fight and an evolution that becomes natural because I want to change with an educational evolution. And that leads to everything you're discussing, my brother. So it's without fail that this cryptocurrency that you think may be a little challenge is not, because you're speaking about, I'm sure you have a smartphone because you're on computer right now, you're speaking. You know we have twice the amount of smartphones in Trinidad that we do have people. And if you can send a text message, you're overqualified to deal with cryptocurrency. We're talking about message like a text. So when you mention bartering, what I'm speaking about is digital bartering. So it's a whole platform of understanding and learning.
Mr. King, not to interject in your flight. What I'm saying, I agree with you on that aspect. What I'm saying, at this junction, we are speaking to diversification. Now, if we speak into diversification, you are now touching on one aspect of it. That's what I'm saying.
But it leads to others.
The crypto, and that's what I expect you to do. Lead us to the others as it relates to the discussion, because we could speak about the trade and the bartering, but we need to understand without the commodity, whether it be goods or service, there will be no need for trading. I'm not sure if you'll agree with me on that point.
But the question is, what is the commodity? Without the commodity, you can't trade to begin with. And money is a commodity, but it's not a commodity today because there's no value in money because they keep losing value.
And making agree with you because is it Mr. George and Mr. Ancaster would have made mention to the time value of money. So we acknowledge these things. But what I'm saying, at this point in time, the panel discussion would have been called to discuss the COVID-19, the way forward, and the different panelists would have touched on certain aspects of that journey.
Remember how I started? I started with what? I started with agriculture and energy diversification. When you ask the question about education and what could get us to there, you need to have a uniting cause. And if I could give people
and that's the question I asked you to address, because if it is we speak in education, what is your method? Because earlier you spoke about an individualistic approach to educating that you sharing, and maybe based on that sharing, you now create a network to share to others. But what I'm saying, and I think Colin would have pointed it out, we hear the argument, but what could you or us as a panel? Now, there's an answer. I'm waiting because it's a question to you, so I don't want to address the question. I want you to now answer that aspect, because yes, I'm hearing utilizing that method, but is it? Well, let me rephrase the question. Do you believe the method in which you plan or you execute to educate will be the most effective to educate the masses?
I believe awareness of oneself will be the most effective. I believe word of mouth will be the best way to bring it, because that would bring trust. But I also believe aligning with influential individuals. So people who are influential, if I could get in their spheres, like I'm slowly doing now, and be able to speak to them to get them to understand, it's easier for them to sell to their peers. Because what happens with people pull people who watch and idolize. So Trinidadian sees a person who driving Benz, for example, they'll be able to say, I will listen to that man. Unfortunately, that is the society. Cliff was talking about harsh reality. That is how it wins. I might pull up in a car that have no value next to the man that has the Benz, and I have so much more to offer than the man that have the Benz, but people will do what? Gravitate to him. So my thing is to get to the influential individuals on the table, educate them that they're willing to listen. Because here what? COVID-19 is forcing you in a direction that you have no choice but to listen.
I agree.
So that Zoom made what? How much billions over the last 3 months? Amazon just reported how many billions. So people are going towards online shopping. So when I speak cashless and I begin to design and show people the evidence in front of them, there's no one that can deny it. If people can live in denial, but you cannot deny it for long when your children, and I remind you that your children is not going to grow up the way you grew up.
So all right, let me just jump in. Hold on, right? Very good, very good. Hold on, I'm going down the road there, boy. But I just want to make this point. Ambrose said something there about Oh, good. I lose my trend of thought, boy.
Don't worry, pull it back.
Something along the lines of oh, good. Heck. Anyhow, the point I wanted to make. No. I was talking about the education, that kind of stuff. The point I wanted to make was this: that it is practically impossible to know what the effect of a style of education will be, unless it's somebody who walked that road already and you come in to teach something similar. Then you could use them as a track record and say, because they did this and they did this in this atmosphere or whatever, this was the result. But if you're trying to educate people on something that was never taught them before, then you can't predetermine what the result will be. You now have to get into it. So you just need to start. Because what King is talking about, and I mean, of course, as you know, I'm aware of because I'm involved in it. We have not had proper financial education in this country. It has been taught at selective levels. For instance, where you are, Cipriani College of Labor, to some degree, some levels in UE and stuff. But the interesting, out of everything else, since before even going to school, we start interacting with money. We learn all kinds of different subjects, things we don't even utilize today. But the one thing that we have been interacting with on a daily basis, from little child to old man, old woman, we have practically no training whatsoever with that. So that we can't say, we can't try to predict what our outcome will be, because we have no track record to say that people have been doing this for how much years and people not listening because X, Y, Z or whatever. It's just a course that we have to chart, and we just need to start it and go with it. But I want to bring in Mr. Agbe to make some input at this point in time.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Yes, my batch.
I've been listening intently since I came on. Unfortunately, I was unable to reach back on this in time. So I'm on the phone.
We hearing you good, man. Don't frighten.
Firstly, we had false hope in the 50s and leading into the 60s by the so-called father of the nation, who created a bunch of dependents in this country. As a result of that, everything that the brother just spoke of, everybody say it can't work. Before cryptocurrency came to Trinidad, it had Avon, it had Herbalife, it had Amway, it had all these, even Organo Gold, it had all these businesses that led to the direction at which we are now. And you know what the average Trinidadian say? It's a pyramid that can't work. This is the same with cryptocurrency. I hear a man say recently, why I must get up 4 o'clock in the morning to trade, boy? My bed wet. But you'd be in a party 4 o'clock in the morning, whining low.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes to show the type of education we have as a people. Any country that feeds itself is a very powerful country. And this is the edge that the USA had on the Soviet Union. Except for wheat and vodka, oil, they had very few natural food. They imported most of the food. I made mention about something last week about us giving permission and so we can sell things. I will tell you this. We are given a mandate as to what we can produce as well by the outside nations. We cannot produce too much food. We have to import food. There was a time Tobago used to feature on that. Tobago was the agriculture hub of Trinidad and Tobago. And what? St. Vincent feeding Trinidad and Tobago now. My point is, agriculture is a way of taking us out of hunger and poverty. That same URP program and that same CPEP program is a very good idea, and I think it could have been directed into the agricultural industry, from meat and milk production to food production. The people could have been paid less than what they pay now, earn food and earn some money. These people that worked on these plantations or these farms with pride, the government of the day could have given them a stipend of, say, up to 5 years. So you're working in cane, you're working in cane, you're working in beef production, milk production. And at the end of the day, we would have been able to feed ourselves and export food to the Caribbean and elsewhere. Most people realize at Einstein long on each topic. Most people are not financially educated, they are financially stupid. And they feel because they have more degrees than a computer that they're bright. Teachers go to school, get with subjects, every degree, get a good job, and look for a pension. What about between the job and the pension? What about investments? How many of us did? How many of us are depending on charity to live? Charity is a pension is a charity. You know? And there are some of us who are still trying to educate our children today. We would miseducate. Commerce teacher and the accounts teacher in school didn't know nothing about accounts and commerce except to tell you about supply and demand. Right? We were misled as a people. And we need to free our minds and free ourselves. So a person asked a question about what Martin Luther King and they fought for. Martin Luther King and they didn't fight for anything to say. They fought against oppression for integration, which did African Americans more harm than segregation. Eric would know, the brother who talk about cryptocurrency would know there was a Black Wall Street before that thing called integration. They break it down, they burn it down, and they build what it's called. What do you call it? Central Park. We have to change our way of thinking, the way we read, things we read, the things the people we associate with, and all these good things. I good. Every treat. Right? As I jump on late, contribution area, the next occasion I'll be more in depth. And add value to this person.
Thank you very much, Advi. A lot of value. I want to just respond to something Cliff mentioned earlier. That after all of this, if we're not going to get up and move and do something, then it might as well be an next set of rum shop talk. But here's why I disagree with that. Before you could get up and start the move, you need to have discussions, even if it's with yourself. You don't just get an idea and just get up and run with it. You need to talk, discuss, invite people, hear different perspectives, whatever, and then run. Not only that, something like this, for instance, after all of this discussion, I mightn't move. But then another man who might be on the call, it might spark something in him. And he might be the one to get up. You're saying something, Agbe?
Or somebody who listening.
And maybe something that they were thinking about all the time. As a matter of fact, when I launched Red, the first episode, when I talk about facing your fears and stuff, the amount of calls I got from people who said, you know, they were thinking about doing this thing, but because of what I did, it inspired them now that yes, they could really get up now and go. So it doesn't have to boil down to just being a rum shop talk. But I think the fact that we having these discussions means that there are people who thinking along certain lines and would really want to see something happen. It's just a matter of taking it now to the next step. The other thing I want to make out, he talked about numbers, that politicians like to see numbers. Granted and agreed with that. However, before you could get to 1 million, you need to start at 1. You don't just have 1 million just like that. You need to start with 1. The idea will be birthed with 1. That one needs to find another one of like mind, double up, and then you keep going like that until you get the numbers that you feel will influence. But you can't just suddenly get the numbers and just go out. Yeah, it had to build. It had to grow from 1. Right? So I just thought I'd make that point. While I understand the point he is making, but I'm also saying there's an old African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Go with company. Yeah.
But my thing is, sometimes you just need to start alone. Get the company while you're on the way. But if you wait all the time to get company before you start, that is actually part of the reason we don't do nothing. Because we wait until we get 1,000 people around us before we launch. Sometimes you just need to start by yourself. If you have if you're convicted enough. Go ahead, Agbe. Sorry. Agbe, go ahead.
If you go out down and you go out down the by your and stand up and just start looking up in his.
You will get company.
A man will look, bro.
You will get company.
A man will look.
No, you will get but
you break it up there, but we understand your point.
Yeah.
A man will look.
They will get company. No, but that's the reality.
Run through.
Yeah. Especially if you look so convincing about what you're looking at. But no, some they want to know. No, but that's the thing. Yeah. Yep. No, and that is a fact. That is a fact. But the thing is, and again, I understand Cliff's point and I agree with it in principle. Sometimes we just talk. So we have these sessions that we just talk and nothing comes out of it. But then we need to act on the conviction. And if it's just you alone, if you're so convinced about what you're saying, then you just need to act. And the numbers will eventually come. But that's just my take on it.
I want to jump in again.
Go, Ambrose.
Alright. Now, first, again, hello to all the partners. Well, good evening now. And to the viewers. Something I need to touch because I am a little historian too. When he spoke about Eric Williams. First, I know there's a large viewership and some may be students. We always need to categorize when we speak. Now, I will agree he would have been termed the father of the nation. And to some, it may not be so. For others, it was well termed. Now, I would try not to go too much into the historical background, but the structure in which he created was a good one. Along the line, what it would have transformed to was not. Just for clarity for those who were, especially the students listening, because we cannot confuse the two. Because the strategy in which was used, it was a hybrid really, because we used what a socialist platform as it relates to having the means of production, meaning that the state would have owned a lot of the assets and employ a lot of the people. And the democratic, or what we talk about, the capitalist system would have also worked alongside. And this is plain only for the economic students and the historian. So we need to always be careful what we share as it relates to things like that, because we need to define where the fall down came. Putting that aside, you would have asked where it came from. Now, for those who know history or those who were into economic or business, they would be familiar with this name, Sir Arthur Lewis. Yes. And Sir Arthur Lewis would have been a Nobel Prize winner, Barbados born, if I recall correctly. And he would have created a theory called industrialization by invitation. And this is for everyone, the panelists who don't know and those who are listening. And the world would have used this model beside the socialist economies. Now, in school, I always had a problem with his model. I cannot take away the brilliance in the proposal. But the proposal by Arthur Lewis was one to, at that point in time, now, certain things I would not share. If you guys want to have a personal discussion, we could have it for many other reasons. Some aspects of it I would have disagreed. Others I blame because they would have taken something wholesale without actually adjusting it to our economy or looking over certain policies. So that's why today the theory will teach you with other theories that, hey, if it's cheaper to import than producing yourself, right? So even if we put in things back in context and also addressing what Mr. King, Mr. Emmanuel, who I find is very quiet right now, Kester and Mr. Samuel would have shared earlier, and even to an extent what Mr. Clifford would have shared, it all intertwined, and that's why in my opening I would have shared, sometimes we really need to look at history, because if we don't learn from it, we tend to repeat the same mistake. And I'm thinking, even based on what the host would have shared as it relates to an individual making and starting and beautiful African proverbs, as it relates to how far you want to go. If you want to do it alone or if you need the company. And sometimes we really need, and I don't believe that this discussion this evening will go to waste. Because as Mr. Somoring, I know if I'm pronouncing it correct, it could be not just the panelists or us having the discussion, but those who might be listening right now, or even have, as Mr. King would have shared earlier, that influence might be in a circle of influence, not just to hear what we shared, but now to take some of what we shared to now impact on those who have the influence to make the difference.
Well, as a matter of fact, every now and then you notice, you see I turn in my head, that's because I'm monitoring another screen where I'm seeing comments from people who are watching on the live. So exactly, just supporting exactly what you say. So while we are talking here, there are other people who are listening and agreeing with certain things, or making their own contributions and liking certain things, and ideas being sparked. And sometimes that's what it is about. It doesn't necessarily mean that because we here in this forum talking that we have to be the ones to make it happen. This could just be our part in the whole scheme of things, but it could spark something else in somebody else that we support, and and we go down the road. Just another way of viewing at it. Guys, we have about 10 more minutes again, so I want to give everybody some closing remarks. What do you see as the way forward from here on? So we've talked a lot of things.
May I say something?
Sure, jump in.
May I say something?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. Clearly, from what I've heard, we seem to, okay, if we are to move forward, we have to find in which area is Trinidad and Tobago going to differentiate itself, or which area it can add more premium value in this area than any other area. It gone are the days, I hear my brother talk about history, but gone are the days where we had this stranglehold on oil or agriculture, even carnival, because now you have, if different Caribbean islands have their own claim to carnival festivities. So what do we have as an area which we could differentiate ourselves in? From all that I've heard, when I weigh everything, I can only agree with what Mr. James was saying. The world is heading via cryptocurrency. I am suggesting, since why don't we do like how Singapore did it in 1965? Singapore noticed that, listen, we have no natural resources. I mean, okay, we're not like them, but we have no natural resources other than our human population. And why don't we now decide, listen, for us to increase our productivity, this is what we're going to take. So we have no natural resources other than our productivity. So what I'm saying is that, why don't we now look to establish, like what we used to do days of old, seek trading links with different countries, and now that we could establish trading links with those different countries, we no longer have to go through the nuisance of having to find a common currency in which payments would be made for those two different trades between the two different countries, between Trinidad and whoever it is. Now that we have a common currency, because we go in a common cryptocurrency, and this is where the world heading, you can't argue that the world is heading that way. We don't have a jump start on the education in that area. Why don't we come together as a group of us, really make a study of what this thing that is being offered to us, because this is the way the world already is heading, and it has clear merits in going that way, to seeing just how probably we could do like how Malta did with a population of 500,000, and they decided to establish themselves as a cryptocurrency hub, only 500,000 persons. Could we then say, listen, if we decide to go in this area after this whole virus is lifted and we start to move about, could we now differentiate ourselves in this sector above any other sector? This is a suggestion that I would like to throw out to the group of persons, and hope it's not just barroom talk.
We definitely have to have more sessions like these, you know. But point taken. Anybody else want to jump in? Some last minute words. What do you think? How do you see what need, again, agreeing with Cliff, there's not just one thing. There are a number of things that needs to be addressed. I think Ambrose was making the point as well. Of course, the finance aspect is one. Food and stuff is another thing. The industrial is a number of different things. But from your perspective, what do you see as one of the main things that needs to be addressed going forward?
Okay, my closing remarks, right? The issue of governmental policy, governmental intervention in the present scenario is one thing, and we have to deal with it, right? Because we are in a situation where we are being attacked by this insidious virus that is destroying everything around us and destroying life. So we have to deal with this from a governmental point of view. That is one aspect. And in that regard, I wish the government well in regards to this committee that they adopted to chart the way forward. But just repeating and reiterating what I said before, if the government didn't have something in place for diversification, if they didn't have something in place for stimulating agriculture, local agriculture production, the manufacturing sector, and I'm not just speaking about agriculture alone, I'm giving credence also to what King James was saying when he talked of the smart technologies, the green technologies, you know, wind, solar. There's so many others that we can utilize in Trinidad. We know different from other countries. So if other countries like Singapore and so on can do it, you know, this other country in Europe that came out with their blockchain and so on. Forget the name of the country right now. You all know what I'm talking about. Right? In India and other parts of Africa with M-Pesa and so on. If they did those things, we have electricity here in Trinidad is relatively cheap. Why couldn't we have invested into data mining farms? You know, big mega farms for doing blockchain technology. I mean, it is the underlying technology for everything that is happening, right or wrong. As I do the research, we see so many different sectors in the economy, whether it's transportation, whether it is agriculture, medicine, insurance, music, whatever, adopting the blockchain technology, right, to help facilitate ease of doing business and global business and so on. We should have been light years ahead with the amount of money that we had here. Government come, government go. So if they don't incorporate blockchain technology, if they don't incorporate cryptocurrency, whatever cryptocurrency is, we're wasting time. Then the second thing is, what King was saying, and some of us suggesting, is the initial, the personal and the initial drive. It takes one mind to change the world. Dr. Trevor says, he often say that we can do more together than we are apart. We can do more together than we are apart. So if we come together, as King is saying, get the numbers with whatever initiative, whether it is One Life, agriculture, accessing land and doing business and so on, whatever it is, that's a different aspect, and that needs management, it needs educational drive, it needs commitment, it needs passion in order to accomplish it. So the government, together with private sector, need to cooperate in order to get us progressing, redeeming the time in this COVID-19 situation, because it's not going to get better with the quantitative easing and the printing of money and your money devaluing, and so many persons deprived of a basic standard of living. It's going to be upheaval, it's going to be chaos. So they have to do something to stabilize the economy. They have to open the borders and open various sectors of society in regards to business, else this will cripple us. It will cripple us. That's why other nations are considering it. The US and Australia and other countries are considered. Of course, we need to be careful not to be premature. We need to practice all the various hygienic laws and so on, and wearing your mask and so on in order to protect us. But we have to do something from a governmental point of view and from a private point of view. So thank you very much for having me on the show today. Thank you.
Something you said triggered a memory. You all remember it was either the late 80s or early 90s, there was a big push in Trinidad towards solar energy. You all remember that? And the whole thing with solar panel and all systems was a big issue. And then it just died off all of a sudden. I remember going Barbados in the early 90s and driving through housing schemes, and everybody house solar panel with water heater. I said, what? Up to now,
St. Vincent.
Yeah, up to now, we in 2020. I talk about the early 90s. We in 2020. When Trinidad you seen that in any big set of way? You know, it's a serious thing. And then something else you said, but I'll come back to that. Let me give the other gentleman some time to respond. What are your takeaways?
I can jump in here.
Yeah.
Yes, really. In terms of solar panel and sustainable energy and that kind of thing, we have a society or an elite in society that does not implement anything that they cannot charge for. So that by itself, understanding that by itself would totally explain why how we say it in Trinidad, we start off hot and sweaty on the solar panels. Because we have access to all types of energy. We have wind, we have sun, we have water, we have the works. The only thing we don't have is the metering to be able to charge. So, that said, pulling on what Noel Emmanuel Jack said earlier, we have an inalienable right to thrive. And I always tell people around me, if you are not thriving, then something or someone is draining your energy. Because A bird never come and ask you for cash to pay rent. Have you seen the Bible? Solomon in his glory has never been arrayed as one of those. It is natural for life to thrive. If you are not thriving,
Dying.
my solution is follow the money. In all my research, follow the money. Anytime you follow the money, you realize who is draining your energy. And I mean, we're talking generally from a local standpoint, but it works internationally as well. Crypto. We must be able to store our energy, and we are sure that fiat currency does not store energy. Because according to Mike Maloney, your true value is your time and your effort. If you cannot purchase the same amount last year with the same denomination of currency this year, then some of your energy was stolen. Carrying back to John Maynard Keynes, someone is stealing your energy. And not only were we not educated about finance, we were miseducated. Because the general consensus is inflation is rising prices, and it's the manufacturers and those retailers creating the inflation. We were never taught about QE, quantitative easing. And that is exactly what John Maynard Keynes was alluding to. We are being robbed. Trying to remember who said it, but he said inflation is taxation without legislation. Understand?
You win with that.
It is taxation without legislation. And we need to understand, we are talking about government doing this and government doing that. And we are not seeing that we talking about a whole field of people who are accustomed to robbing us. Are we going to wait on them again? Or are we going to create? And in order to create, we have groundwork to do. We have to educate. Gentlemen, I end there to make.
You gave me toes on the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'll just quickly leave some closing remarks, and I want to just probably spend about 3 minutes, if you allow me, Eric.
Sure.
And allow me to share the screen, because I believe that I feel so encouraged by Mr. Ambrose's take and sharing with me that, because I know I was in a place where I know that I didn't know that I didn't know. I remember Alvin Morton shared that with me. I didn't know that I didn't know. So when you find out, you can't help but to get passionate and run through walls to do your best to help save people. So I know many people don't pay attention to this, but this US debt of 24 trillion, which a month ago was actually at 23 trillion. This is absolutely baffling. But this US dollar is worth 7 of my TT dollars and technically 8 on this black market that we have. That's not really spoken about. Something is wrong with this type of trade. But to put it in context, I will take another minute now to just let you listen to him for 1 minute, put it in time frame so you can understand what I mean.
Fun trivia question to use on your friends. And we do this because millions, billions, trillions, like we totally lose track of what that means and what that looks like. So let's take dollars and move it into something we have a better concept of, that's time. So how long ago was 1,000,000 seconds? 12 days. How long ago was 1 billion seconds? 32 years. Okay, final question. How long ago was a trillion seconds? Not 12 days, not 32 years, but a trillion seconds ago was 32,000 years ago.
So when people ask me, and we speak economy, we speak solutions, we speak about what needs to happen, we need to identify the problem. And I think Kes hit it on the head. We are accustomed to the word or the conversation inflation. We are accustomed to talking about losing buying power and losing value of our currency and our money every single year, like it's a normal thing. It's abnormal, friends. Something is wrong with that picture. I have always been wrong. And because I've come out of the box that I was containing me, I'm out the box now. My mind is broad and I'm seeing, I'm listening, I'm understanding, I'm a part of things that is just bringing more and more awareness to me to know that something is wrong. How about if I introduce you to a currency that could actually go up in value instead of go down? Would that be interesting? So for me, the takeaway from here is we need to find a common ground that we can unite on. We can develop income with and pool it to put it in other resources, because trusting the present regime of old thinking will not do it for us. It needs renewed, it needs refocus, it needs a reboost, it needs a revamping of young minds. Could be old minds too, but it could be minds, it needs to be minds that have experienced change. And according to Nelson Mandela, not to me, the greatest weapon in the world that can cause and effect change is education. And this is the weapon that I am all in on and I believe in, especially to help people that don't know, they don't know. It's a hard task. It's a little challenging, but somebody has to push you way forward and somebody has to do it. And if I stand in the middle of Port of Spain long enough, and I look up and I point up,
and point
to and they will point to, they will start to see things, you know. That's what happened. That was just happened. Yeah. So thank you guys. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for your time, Eric. Thank you for every panelist that's here.
I appreciate
you guys. That more riveting talk. I do have to run away though. I want to explore right now.
Noted. Thank you. Ambrose, you got the last say, boy. Stephen.
What? I'm so encouraged. Well, before I share anything, I need to say thank you for the opportunity again to be amongst such great minds. First and foremost, I hear what was shared. I agree with the panelists. We do need to look into the various areas of growth, both individually and from an economic level. I believe that we need to look at the agriculture and manufacturing, looking at creating the new virtual economies, whether through the blockchain and these forms of cryptocurrency, because yes, that's where the world is going. I still believe that we need to be more strategic and really look at the past and see how we can take what would have been learned or not learned from that time and now modify it to better our economy and our social positioning today. Well, with that being said, again, I'd like to thank you for being a part of the discussion.
Thank you, Stephen. I just want to kind of respond to something you said down in the end there. One of the reasons I am doing this, just to bring some clarity, is because for quite a while now, because of things I have seen and understood, I have gone away from the position of waiting on the government to fix a situation that is affecting me. Understandably, that there are certain things I may not have the power to change by myself, at least, because of how our system is designed. It has to be the government or a government agency or state agency to implement or, manipulate or whatever to get it to happen. But at the same time, sometimes to get that to happen, it requires some kind of fire lighting from me as an individual. And too often, again, and this is where I have to agree with Cliff, too often is a case where talk, and it stays there. Everybody knows what every government has done wrong and why, but it stops there. and we will complain. You know the story? You know the little joke where a policeman came and met a guy, you know, kind of crouch over, low to the ground, like he's searching for something under a street light. So the police asked him, what is he looking for? He said, well, I lost so and so and so. I lost, you know, his ID or whatever. And he said, well, where you lost it? Well, I'll lose it over there in the dark, but it has no light there, so I come here where it have light to look for it. And that is how a lot of us behave. So the place to make the complaint that could effect change, we don't talk there. But we bring it amongst all kind of people who can't make no kind of serious input or can't do anything really to influence the change. And we just have a set of talk amongst them. And nothing happens. And one of the reasons for starting this is because, again, you notice the kind of people who I invite. It's people who I believe have something that could really spark some kind of revolution and cause change. And that's what the whole thing is about. So, gentlemen, I want to thank all of you. Cliff, King James, I see Agbe had to leave. Samji had to leave. But everybody else, Kes, Noel, Stephen, Ambrose, you know, long I tried to get you in a forum like this, but thanks for making the time. Thanks for making the time. However, I want to close off.
Anytime, boss.
Nice. We have more coming, don't worry. But I want to close off with that clip I used on our Deal Shaker presentation this morning. That it was, I wasn't shocked in a real sense, but I was taken a bit by surprise. I'll tell you what it is and I'll show you the clip. Here is the person in charge of the Swedish Central Bank saying it openly on camera without shame. Even though she is in charge of the central bank generated money in Sweden, she doesn't use it. She uses digital payments only. And she had to say it. And she said furthermore, she will not give people the idea that the central bank generated fiat is the best way to go. Or not someone saying, here is the person in charge of the Swedish central bank telling you that as far as she is concerned, that same central bank digital dollar, and she was right in the process of showing them the new dollar that they created. That was a couple of years back. And she is telling you, as far as she's concerned, she said, not just her, but she said they said openly, they don't tell people that that's the best way to go. That should be a lesson to think about. But let me just close it. I just want just about a minute. Just take a look at it. But for those of you looking on, this is us. This is where you can find out. This is Red, the channel. So visit us on YouTube, subscribe, like, follow, you know, Twitter, IG, Facebook, everything. We there, we post, a lot of stuff coming out. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, I have a live with Avanel Hector Joseph and her husband. Avanel Hector Joseph runs an organization called, oh sorry, I guess you guys didn't see the channel. Right, this is Red, the channel. Avanel Hector Joseph and her husband runs an organization called ITNAC. Is There Not a Cause? And they have been doing some revolutionary kind of what's the word I want to use? Oh Lord, the words just eluded me. But helping people in terms of crisis and stuff like that. I remember when Hurricane Ivan, I think, devastated Grenada. ITNAC was one of the first people that left Trinidad to go. They have a lot of people that practically live in Haiti, helping to bring relief and all that kind of stuff, doing work all over Trinidad and Tobago, Kenya, Dominica, and a number of different countries. So we have an interview at 5 p.m. tomorrow with ITNAC. So feel free to join in. Please do join us. It won't be as long as this, of course. And we're going to get some more inside information as to what ITNAC is about, how they came about, what they, what they do and why they do it and stuff like that. But I want to close off with this clip. Just about a minute, but take it in, guys. Here is the lady I talk about, Swedish Central Bank. Look at this.
The idea that banks could cooperate to...
Do we have volume?
Choose domestic product. That's
oh my bad. Let me just start it over.
Might be unthinkable elsewhere.
Cash.
The idea that banks could cooperate to kill off cash might be unthinkable elsewhere. But it's not so surprising in Sweden, where bills and coins recently constituted less than 3% of the country's domestic product. That's compared to an average across the euro area of almost 10%. Many bank branches here no longer carry hard currency. Homeless magazine vendors, like Jimmy here, use wireless card readers to accept credit and debit card payments.
And then I press this? Yeah.
And certain cell phone stores sport signs saying no cash accepted. But in Sweden, which printed Europe's first banknotes 350 years ago, these new technologies have not stopped the central bank from designing new notes for 2015.
This is a security feature that will be on all of them.
Susanna Gruffman may control the country's physical currency, but says she herself never carries cash.
We are quite neutral, even though we are the one who provide the society with cash. We don't necessarily say that cash is, for example, when you look at efficiency, the best payment instrument.
You heard that? You heard that? And you notice the little snicker in the fella voice when he said she doesn't carry cash. You know, you might wonder what really going through his head. But that's something significant to make note of. Here is the head of the central bank in Sweden, and she's telling you, I don't use cash. That's for all you. That's the next way we could look at it, eh? You understand? So that's for all you. Only go ahead, only could use it. Beat up with that. Fight up with that. Use the dying value. I use in digital. You understand what I'm saying? But that's our next long story, but we will talk about that in another thing. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for viewing. Gentlemen on the panel, thanks for taking the time. Almost 2 hours gone. So you see how time flies when you're having fun. So thanks very much. Looking forward to having a next sit down. And the show is locked. I'm going to pull up the billboard there quick so you can see it. Right, so we locked down, but we're not locked up. And this is what it's all about. So looking forward to another session. Sharing another session with you guys live right here on Red.